124th Annual Meeting of the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. I'm Owen Helene, President of the Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate Audubon's accomplishments of the past year and to review our plans for the future. Today, we'll be electing new board members to serve as trustees of the organization, as well as recognizing volunteers and partners who has helped us accomplish so much of our mission. Again this year, the annual meeting is being held virtually and recorded in order to practice responsible social distancing and to keep everybody safe. We all really hope we'll be together in person next year. Over the past year, Audubon staff continued to be adaptive and creative as they face continuous and unexpected challenges. I'm so appreciative of all of their hard work and remarkable resilience as they kept our organization moving forward, keeping our trails open, offering safe programming, and successfully advocating for new climate change legislation. I also wish to thank our board of directors for their guidance and their ongoing support. And I wish to thank retiring board members whose term limits are up for their service to the board. Nick Califano, Everett Stewart, and Megan Frost. Thank you all for all you've brought to Audubon. 18 months ago, Audubon closed its offices due to COVID. We suspended most of our programs, including summer camps and the Youth Conservation League. Thankfully, we never needed to close our trail systems, and we saw positive results from that decision. This past year, record numbers of people have used our trails, hiked, and appreciated our wildlife refuges. People from all walks of life took advantage of these terrific natural assets for their physical and mental health. This year, as many programs are resumed, all were carefully held with safety in mind. Our summer camp returned to operation in Bristol, and we offered many outdoor programs and events. Audubon again proved creative and resilient in 2021, and our community responded. Thank you all. Now I'd like to introduce Don Heitzman, the chair of Audubon's Governance Committee, to announce this year's slate of candidates to be elected to our board of directors. Don?
Thanks, Owen. According to the Audubon Society of Rhode Island's bylaws, the board of directors shall establish a governance committee. The governance committee shall present a slate of board members for election by the general membership at the annual meeting. The bylaws also say that board members are elected to a 3-year term and are limited to serving 3 such terms. The governance committee has placed the following people in nomination for election this year. For election to a first 3-year term, Amy Moses, Olinda Urizar Mendez, Emily Westcott, Sean Williams, and Laura Landon. And note that Laura was appointed in 2019 to fill the unexpired term of a board member who stepped down. For election to a second 3-year term, we nominate David Caldwell Jr., and for election to a third 3-year term are David Riedel and Michael Viveros. In view of our need to conduct this as a virtual meeting without two-way communication with the attendees, all members were sent a ballot in the mail in late September. This is being recorded 3 days before our meeting, and as of today, we have received 82 ballots, all of which have been cast in favor of the nominated slate. Therefore, the slate is elected. Now, stepping down from the board at the end of their 3rd term, in accordance with our bylaws, are Nick Califano, Everett Stewart, and Megan Frost. We all thank Nick, Ev, and Megan for their service and contribution of their time, energy, and skills to our board. Let me turn this back now to Lawrence Staff, Audubon's Executive Director.
Thank you, Don. And as you heard from Owen previously, Audubon accomplished an amazing amount of things last year. And now I'd like you to hear from members of our senior management team on how, with your support, we accomplished so much. First up is Scott Rurin, Senior Director of Conservation.
Hi, I'm Scott Roran, the Director of Conservation at the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. My job is a challenging job, and what I oversee is the management and protection of our 9,000 some acres of property, our habitat management for birds and other wildlife. Yeah, definitely we've seen an increase in trail use at our refuges. It's been ongoing for almost 2 years now with COVID. A lot more people coming to the refuges, so much so that the parking lots are overflowing even on weekdays. We have normal high periods, such as the really nice weather, but now it's been pretty much all year. And we're one of the few organizations that kept our trails open throughout. The Forestry for the Birds program is one of our exciting programs that we've been involved in for 3 years. It's a collaborative program focused on 3 states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Obviously, we're doing the Rhode Island portion. And it's a way that Audubon can apply our expertise in bird diversity, bird habitat, habitat management, invasive species, and all the other issues we face. It gets landowners, private landowners, to protect and manage their forest land for birds as well as other wildlife. So we act as the people that come out, do the assessment, determine what birds are on the property, and try to determine what habitat needs those forest owners have. And people have been thrilled. They've been thrilled to hear and see how much diversity they have on their land. The Youth Conservation League is another one of our programs. It's a summer program where we employ high school students to get out on the land and do conservation work with a supervisor. It's actually been going on for over 10 years, which is pretty exciting. It gives people great experience, try to determine if they want to get into conservation work. We've had a lot of positive feedback from the landowners. We collaborate with the state, local land trusts, and they also do a lot of work for Audubon, maintaining trails, fixing fences, managing invasive species. And they learn a lot in an 8-week program with the way we designed it right now. So they can spend most of their summer doing conservation work, which is pretty rare and exciting and hard to find nowadays. And the benefits to the participants is that they get to see real conservation work in action. And they have youth and energy on their side. They don't mind digging holes, raking gravel, pulling invasives, work that a lot of us would think is pretty tough and arduous in the hot weather. But they bond, and in those few weeks that they're together, they become a real cohesive team. And I've had a lot of students or participants tell me that they're going to pursue this in college and a career. Another program that we manage is called the TerraCorp program. It's a conservation-based effort stemming out of AmeriCorps, a program that a lot of people know and understand. So the goal of TerraCorps is to get people to go out and be members in an organization, work for a year, what they call their service year, and perform lots of different work. We modeled it to be a refuge manager type position where they monitor and map our properties, as well as doing education and outreach. So our TerraCorps member from last year did a lot of wonderful mapping of our properties, checking maps, borders, upgrading our maps through GIS and high-tech satellite imagery. And our person who just started this year, our new member, he is continuing that effort, as well as expanding our citizen science effort with bluebird monitoring, butterfly monitoring, and some of the other exciting programs that we do at Audubon. A growing concern worldwide is the concern over pollinators, pollinator health, pollinator survival, the decline of pollinator species, including very charismatic species like monarch butterflies. At the Audubon Society of Rhode Island, on our refuge system, we actively engage in management that helps pollinators, such as mowing at different times so we don't kill the pollinators, an obvious benefit to the wildlife. We've also been planting and restoring native species that are good for the pollinators. Example is at Fisherville Brook Wildlife Refuge in Exeter. We have been planting native pollinator species, milkweeds, asters, goldenrods, species that are very important for pollinators' larval food, as well as nectar late in the summer into the fall. We've also started to delay mowing in certain areas, including Fisherville Brook, Tuisset Marsh, Powder Mill Ledges, where our headquarters is located. We've mowed later now to support birds as well as pollinators.
Thank you, Scott. Now let's hear from Lauren Parmalee, Senior Director of Education.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Parmalee. I'm the Senior Director of Education for the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. My role at Audubon is to oversee all the education programs that take place in schools, libraries, community organizations, as well as public and family programs. I have an amazing staff of educators, and we all have worked very hard in the past few years to keep environmental education going on in Rhode Island. As you all know, environmental education normally takes place outside or during our outreach programs in school classrooms. So my staff and I brainstormed in March 2020 and April 2020 to figure out what did we have the capacity to do. And we immediately began developing a program called Audubon at Home, which is free videos on our website of 27 different themes right now. We have stories where the educator reads a story. We have animal interviews. We have behind the scenes tours of our owl enclosures and our aquarium. That was an amazing thing that we did. We had never done before, and we're very proud of that. We also began offering school teachers and students programming through Zoom and other online platforms. And that was actually pretty amazing because students can actually see an owl even closer through Zoom than they can when we bring an owl into their classroom. As soon as we were able to go back to schools, we started leading outdoor programs in their own schoolyard. So either doing owl and hawk presentations in their schoolyard or leading schoolyard explorations. So it was really about being flexible, about being creative, about trying to serve teachers and students and parents where they were, which was kind of stuck at home or stuck in the classroom. During the past few years, we've had a partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife on a project called Schoolyard Habitat Projects, and we helped a variety of schools create outdoor learning spaces that included native plants that are great for wildlife. As a part of that project, my staff and I developed a Schoolyard Habitat Resource Guide that we just finished and got published this 2021. It is full of tips and tricks for teaching outside, safety tips, as well as a variety of activities for K through 6th grade, with many connections not only to science but to art and music and literacy and math and even physical education. And this guide, due to the Fish and Wildlife funding, is available free online at the ASRI.org website. So we're very proud of that. We're doing workshops around that, professional development for teachers. So if you're, if a teachers and a principal are interested in learning how to use outdoor spaces, we can use this, give them this resource guide and do professional development at their school. We were thrilled to be able to offer summer camp in Bristol at the Nature Center and Aquarium this past summer. We offered 6 weeks of summer camp for 36 kids a week, 3 age groups. It was so wonderful to bring kids back on the property. In order to keep kids outside as much as possible, we bought 3 tents, and so kids spent almost every single day, except when it was absolutely downpouring, outside doing crafts, playing games, investigating nature, going down to the coast and scooping for fish and finding crabs. And I really think it was such a successful summer. It was a very safe environment, but it was also a very happy environment. They went hiking, they always do tie-dye t-shirts and take apart owl pellets, and the older kids dissect squid, which is very smelly but very interesting, and there's always watermelon at the end. So the pollinator garden is about 3 years old now, and we could not have done the pollinator garden without a host of volunteers, including some very dedicated board members such as Terry Meyer and Nick Califano. When the pandemic hit and we couldn't even have the Nature Center open, people still flocked to Bristol and our other refuges to enjoy our trails, and the garden is always a highlight. It's fun. There's it's really kid friendly, and there's like little paths through parts of it where kids can go down and explore on their own. There's a big bee hotel we call Buckingham Palace. It has a variety of nooks and crannies for solitary bees and other insects to lay their eggs. And we couldn't do it without volunteers. And also the Master Gardeners have been a great partner with us over the past few years and really helped not only work in the garden, but have programming around the garden and elements of the garden. And things are looking so beautiful over there, and it's a great place for wildlife. We've really noticed a tremendous increase in visitation to the Nature Center and all of our wildlife refuges. More people who have never been, they'll come to the Nature Center and they'll go, I've driven by this place for years and I've never come in, and I'm so happy I'm here, and I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'm going to come in and visit your exhibits and your nature shop. And just so many more people from all over. People who have, maybe not even visited Bristol before are making the Nature Center and Aquarium a destination. Also finding that people really want to get out, and they've appreciated our guided bird walks. We're doing private birding walks. We're doing outdoor, our typical outdoor programs like mushroom forays and owl prowls and things like that. And things that are happening outside are very, very popular. People want to get outside. They enjoy learning. But I also noticed that there's more new people signing up because they're finding out about Audubon, because they've had to find safe, healthy things to do during the pandemic, and they have sort of discovered us. I think schools and parents and families have really come to understand the value of bringing their kids outside.
Thank you, Lauren. Now we'll hear from our new Senior Director of Government Affairs, Priscilla de la Cruz.
Hi, my name is Priscilla de la Cruz. I am the new Senior Director for Government Affairs at Audubon. And this past year has been a huge year for environment and climate in the advocacy space. And that's, of course, also thanks to Meg Kerr, who previously had the role of Policy Director at Audubon. So some of the exciting highlights, of course, during the challenging past year throughout the pandemic is that for the first time in 7 years, a major climate and environmental bill was passed by the General Assembly. That is the 2021 Act on Climate. Why was that such a major lift for Audubon, its partners, legislators, and Rhode Islanders who mobilized around climate? Because we set binding and enforceable targets that require the ocean state to reduce carbon emissions. That is net zero by 2050, but also with interim targets to really get us at reducing carbon pollution and also addressing the climate crisis head on. And the other critical part of the Act on Climate is that it will set the framework for what else we have to do to mitigate the impacts of climate change and also ensure that the ocean state is adapting to a changing climate and minimizing those impacts over time. And some of the other key policies that passed after the successful passage of the Act on Climate was the Forest Conservation Act. So we know we're going to have to get to 100% renewable electricity by 2030 and deploy more renewable energy. But what is that balance? How do we site solar, for example, appropriately, and how do we do that in a way that does not impact wildlife? So the Forest Conservation Act is a critical piece of legislation from Audubon's perspective that passed this past legislative session, and it's going to require the state to come up with a plan by April, coming from this commission, as to how the state is going to protect valuable forests. That is also part of this acting on climate solution. So it's really important as we're working to address the climate crisis and deploying the necessary renewable energy we're going to need to really phase out our dependence on fossil fuels, that we are siting renewable energy appropriately, and that's both onshore and offshore. And the importance of that is because we will need our forests and the limited natural resources that we have to really be resilient against the climate crisis. And there's also benefits to forests like carbon sequestration. So it's really important that as we're working to solve one problem, we're not creating another one. So in the coming year, we're going to build on our past success of convening with the rest of the environmental community and broader stakeholders to really address solar siting, for example, and to also ensure that wildlife and the environment are protected as we incorporate more offshore wind in the state, which we will need to meet the Act on Climate goals. So Audubon Society of Rhode Island recognized the crisis that our pollinators are in. And a few years ago, we co-led the effort to form the Pollinator Working Group. And in the past 2 years, we've introduced legislation to ensure that we're reducing the harm that pesticides has on birds, in particular neonicotinoids. So we'll continue to push that effort and to advocate for policy that really regulates the harmful use of this particular pesticide and take it off the hands of regular consumers that don't need to rely on this harmful pesticides. And Audubon continues to promote nature-based climate resiliency solutions, and we've successfully continued to do that through the launch of the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center. So we successfully launched the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center at the start of the pandemic, and we continue to explore innovative technologies around nature-based climate resiliency solutions at Roger Williams Park, and also learning a lot about ways that we can solve stormwater pollution and better manage our stormwater. We will continue to work with our partners and community to improve urban water quality and also to implement innovative green infrastructure practices right in the park for the benefit of surrounding communities and for birds and wildlife.
Thank you, Priscilla. Our senior management team and the rest of our staff here at Audubon have accomplished quite a bit, but there's some other people that we want to acknowledge for their amazing partnerships with Audubon. First, I'd like to introduce you to 2 volunteers who went way above and beyond this year, helping in our Palmieri Pollinator Garden, helping to make our Nature Center Aquarium more welcoming. They are Betsy and Richard Staples, and I'm proud to say Audubon's 2021 Volunteers of the Year.
The Staples have been amazing. They've been coming here for together for 2 years, and Betsy has been coming for I think over 4 years now. They've worked in every area of the gardens, down along the boardwalk towards the bay. They've just been incredible facilitators of volunteer work here, and their passion is really evident in everything that they do, and they just really are incredibly passionate about helping this organization and helping the environment in general. They've been coming with their grandson Reed, who is just a light of sunshine, and he always brings a smile to all of us. The first thing he says to me in the morning whenever he sees me is, "Can we get the golf cart?" We always get Reed involved in whatever we can, and I think that just speaks to the larger mission of Audubon of getting everyone involved from a young age and even into retirement.
I loved coming here just to wander around and take pictures. I'm into wildlife photography. One day I was actually right in this area where Terry Meyer was working on the garden, and she said, introduce yourself and asked if I'd be interested in helping out, and it took me about a minute to say, sure.
We were looking for something to do during the pandemic. So the center itself was closed, but Betsy, having come here the year before, knew that there were things that need to be done on the grounds. So she asked me if I wanted to come one day, and I decided I would. And we came quite regularly because it was great to get outdoors where you could enjoy the outdoors and do something good at the same time. What do you say? Probably, I'd say 10 to 12, probably.
I would say 12-ish.
Yeah, 12 hours a month. Usually a morning.
Try to come once a week.
Sometimes more, especially if we know there's a project that is kind of on the front burner, like doing the bird feeder garden on the west side of the building last year kind of became a big project, and we came more than once a week to work on that. Well, it's always weeding season, we've learned. We've learned a lot about weeds, probably more than we ever thought we wanted to know. I have to say, I enjoy the fact that 2 of us are out here enjoying a spot. Sometimes we work together, sometimes we work in different places, but we're always happy with what we've done by the time we get done doing it.
I love seeing the birds and butterflies that are around. You never know when a red-tailed hawk's going to fly over. It's a great place to come and find quiet, and you can kind of forget all the things that are going on and just focus on your little patch of ground that you're working on, and I find that very rewarding.
I like seeing other people come to Audubon and experience it while we're here. Sometimes we get asked questions, but sometimes it's just watching little children run down the paths that we've weeded that make us pretty happy too. Reed Staples.
Reed is now 3 years old, but even when he was 2, I think he was understanding that he was helping. He was doing something of value. He was seeing other people enjoy the area, and I think maybe he got the sense that he was helping to make that happen.
Well, he loved yard work from almost the time he started to walk. He had his first rake in his hand, I think, in September of, what would that have been, 2019. And so we knew when we thought we were going to bring him that, again, during the pandemic time, we were looking for stuff to do with him outside, that he would enjoy it. And he certainly has enjoyed it.
And he loves being outside and being physical, so I think it was all great for him, and we just couldn't get enough of watching him do those little chores that he was helping with.
And his buddy Barry, who works here, he loves Barry.
Yeah, he'll even ask, is Barry there? Is the golf cart there as we're driving down? You know, they've clearly become favorites.
When I talk to friends about this facility, I say there's so much for everyone to do. You can take a walk, you can go inside, see the exhibit, check out Betsy's photographs. Whatever you choose to do, you can do here, and the boardwalk's great, but it's not the only thing. I would also add that we go to a lot of the refuges as well, and I know that volunteer work is needed there. But all of this is in nature, where you get to listen to the birds and maybe see some wildlife and experience people coming down the path will be grateful for what you're doing to keep this place looking so good.
Mm-hmm. It's just a very rewarding experience.
Our second recognition goes to Brian Burns, the Deputy Superintendent of Parks for the City of Providence, where he has focused his abundant energy in addressing stormwater runoff and its polluting consequences at the Roger Williams Park, and in creating the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center, which Audubon is proud to be a partner.
I am Ryan Kopp. I'm the Stormwater Coordinator with the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center and the Audubon Society of Rhode Island. Brian was the main person that was involved in installing all of the green infrastructure projects in Roger Williams Park to improve water quality and to treat the polluted stormwater runoff. But instead of he could have, as his duty as a Parks Department superintendent, just installed those green infrastructure projects and walked away, checked off the box. But instead, Brian had the vision to use all the information and the knowledge that he learned along the way to come up with the vision of the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center, and to be able to take all of the knowledge that he learned along the way and to share that with other municipalities who may be going through a similar process.
My name is Brian Burns. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Parks in Providence, Rhode Island. I am here at Roger Williams Park, which is one of 122 parks here in the city of Providence and the birthplace of the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center. The true birth of the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center started here before I was even employed by the city of Providence. As a contractor, I was working on a stormwater retrofit, referred to as a BMP or a best management practice, and complaining about the design and how it would be maintained. And the engineer walked up and we had a lively discussion about my concerns. So for me, that is the actual hour that the Providence Stormwater Innovation started. But certainly some 2 years later, my introduction to Meg Kerr, Sheila Dormady, and Ryan Kopp really brought that vision to fruition. And now they are the main team members in the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center. The Providence Stormwater Innovation Center is truly a collaboration of all the different stakeholders in stormwater retrofits and green infrastructure here, not only in Rhode Island, but in New England. And we have partners like UNH and URI that assist us. And the premise was take all the people that are involved in these things, from concept to design to to installation to maintenance, and get them in a room together and ask them what their issues are and how what one person does affects the next. And that's what we've been able to do. One of the great results of the collaborations that we've been undertaking is training maintenance workers, not only here in Roger Williams Park and in the Parks Department, but across the state and even regionally. So we will have requests from different municipalities to come over and walk through our stormwater BMPs and talk about how our maintenance crews maintain them. And without the maintenance, they're not worth building. And that's the biggest problem in stormwater right now is we can get funding to build these things, but there's no funding to maintain them. And that is on you as a municipality or a landowner to fund that maintenance and make sure you can get it done. So that has been a great residual of the Stormwater Center. We've done lots of trainings and seminars. So the basic premise with stormwater retrofits is you take water that came off the city streets within the park or surrounding areas and you put it through natural filters. And with that, we get cleaner water. In particularly with the increase in cyanobacteria and some other algae that have been harmful to not only humans but to animals. With better maintenance of these BMPs, in the end, the water quality is increased, and that's better for wildlife, the birds, the insects. We have pollinator gardens that are incorporated into these BMPs, all part of the ecosystem here in Roger Williams Park and across the state and region. So the true partnership and true creation of the Stormwater Center was when I met Meg Kerr and Sheila Dormady, and now Priscilla De La Cruz has taken over for Meg. But that's when this all came together. They came to me and said, we want to do this with you. We can be partners, and they truly have been. Without them, none of this would have been made possible. They have helped us to bring experts and scientists and researchers together and have those conversations that we talked about. They have also led the outreach and trainings that we've done with Ryan Kopp. So truly, this Stormwater Center would be nothing without that group and their continued support of the Stormwater Center, which is the ultimate goal of is to clean the ponds to a point where you could swim in it, although historically swimming was never allowed in Roger Williams Park, which I found out after I told the mayor that if he hired me, he'd be able to swim in the ponds here at Roger Williams Park. So that was always the ultimate goal.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank not only Richard and Betsy Staples and Brian Burns as volunteers and partners, but to also thank you, our members and supporters, for helping make Audubon achieve its goals for 2021. Thank you. The changing climate is having a dramatic impact on wildlife populations and their habitats. The birds Audubon was founded to protect 124 years ago face new threats and are now disappearing from the sky at a rate that shocks even ornithologists. A study published last year found that since the 1970s, nearly 1 in every 3 birds is gone, and even many common species like sparrows and blackbirds are in decline. Much of this loss is due to alteration in habitat, food webs, and species interactions resulting from climate change and the bird's inability to adapt quickly enough. And this problem is likely to get worse without immediate action. In response to all these threats, all 4 major goals of Audubon's strategic plan are focused to address climate change. Climate change is the complicating factor in almost everything taking place around the globe. It is the major underpinning for species survival. Not only does it affect people, who suffer from pollution, extreme and more frequent flooding, heat waves, and damage from more extreme storms, it affects birds and wildlife as well. Audubon's strategic plan, adopted in June 2020, has 4 major goals. Protect birds and their habitats, mobilize people from all backgrounds to take action on climate change, advocate for local and state government to rapidly invest in climate crisis responses, and transform Audubon into an inclusive climate action organization. The first strategic goal, to protect birds and their habitats, is to support species survival and adaptations through climate changes, with the ultimate outcome of ensuring that crucial habitat on private and public lands is also protected and expanded and managed for species diversity and human health. Audubon plans to achieve this goal through a series of actions to support Rhode Island landowners and land managers as they adopt to climate resilience practices and use Audubon refuges as models for species and habitat protection. To provide solid, on-the-ground science for this effort, we have created a new position of Director of Avian Research to study the birds and habitats on Audubon wildlife refuges, and provide recommendations to manage Audubon properties to support species as they adapt to changing conditions. Audubon will share successful strategies with other landowners so they can manage their properties in a similar way. A second major focus of the strategic plan is inclusiveness and making sure that Audubon reflects all the people of Rhode Island on our staff and board, in the visitors to our refuges, in our membership and advocates, and in those we engage in our programs and activities. We are looking to engage future supporters and leaders who will be carrying the mission forward in the years to come. Our goal is to mobilize people from all backgrounds to take action on climate change with the objective of making sure that all Rhode Islanders have the knowledge, skills, and willingness to take community-wide action to mitigate climate change and its impact. To accomplish this will require placing an increased emphasis on developing programs and partnerships with communities of color. Our recent partnership with the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center at Roger Williams Park was a good start at reaching out to a broader audience to develop a local connection to nature and to find natural solutions in dealing with increased water pollution due to increased rainfall. While we will continue our environmental education for urban schools initiative, we will also look to engage people through churches and community groups, as well as work to make our facilities more inviting and accessible to all people. Our third strategic goal builds on the first two: advocate for local and state government to rapidly invest in climate crisis responses so that Rhode Island leads in nature-based climate resiliency and economy and achieves carbon neutrality. Our advocacy has an urgent focus on climate. We need to hold our regulatory and legislative leadership accountable for implementing plans that supports the climate goals. There have been many good recommendations, but we haven't seen a lot of action. We need to get more vocal and start holding our elected officials' feet to the fire. Audubon will be working to create solid, measurable goals as the Act on Climate bills is our top legislative priority. One way to do that will be to emphasize human health implications of the changing climate. We know that more resilient communities have healthier people, and we know that a lot of our health is related to where we live, how we live, and the support we get within our communities. So having local green spaces and places we can go for refuge benefits our mental health. In addition, hotter temperatures and increased ozone levels aggravate pre-existing conditions and result in increased hospitalizations and poorer physical health. The final goal in the strategic plan directs Audubon to transform itself into an inclusive climate action organization so it becomes a powerful, recognized leader in Rhode Island's move to climate resilience. This is a more organizationally focused goal that will involve aligning our internal systems to support its focus on climate resilience and inclusion. All this might sound very ambitious, and it is, but with your continued involvement and support, we will work to create a brighter future not only for birds and wildlife, but for all people in our state. Thank you.